Okay, so let's get started. So today going to be a pretty cool one. I want to start basically with a case. Rick, if you're still open to it, I'd love to basically open up with you. We're gonna basically for new people now that are on those calls, and maybe it's the first time you participate. Once again, we're all here to share, and what our core value basically is basically a rising tide raises all boats, right? So we're here to collaborate, we're here to learn from each other, and we're here to be humble enough to know that we got to learn to keep rising, right? So at the end of the day today, I'm really excited. We're going to have open conversations, but I want to basically, I thought that it would be really cool to break down the case where for me, I've been really close to Rick. I went back to our numbers where I didn't knew, but I forgot about it sometimes. You actually joined our community in November 2024. So it's now been 2 years that my team hears me talking about Rick on those morning huddles and been through ups, been through downs together. So I'm really close to that one.
Yeah.
But,
And I haven't been thrown out yet.
yeah. So yeah, so I think today Rick had some cool wins recently, and I think the more important for me, I've been talking to a lot of you guys also. I'm not a result-oriented person. I'm more of a process-oriented person. Working with Rick has been a privilege for me and really inspiring. So I thought that we could probably go deeper down and learn more about his process and what he's learned since many of us has started now into that industry hitting cold markets when we're mostly used of warm markets and referral programs, right? So maybe Rick, if we would start, I would
Why
probably
don't,
ask,
why don't you just ask me questions and we'll go from there?
yeah, basically what I think is if we go back to the start of this, when you got started, if you could tell us a little bit more about you, what you do, where you're at, and before joining us, like how were you acquiring new clients?
I've been in the industry since April 1991. I tried in the past using some other services to develop my own funnel systems, lead systems, etc. Nothing really happened. Probably spent close to $30,000 with very little results. So I call it for my mind, I call that my university education. So it makes it more palatable per se on just learning about getting clients through social media. I've tried different lead services. Um, Getting leads. They do the advertising. The lead comes in and asking various questions, whether it be focusing more on increasing retirement income, doing things of that nature. Decided that the premiums that I'd be getting were not sufficient enough. It was still very labor intensive on my part in having to phone the leads. And I'm just at an age where I want to work smarter, not harder, and doing what I used to do 30 years ago doesn't work now in today's market. So I had checked out Fondaco. I was willing to give it a shot. Faced some struggles. Let's say struggles on how to handle the meetings and what I should be saying. Challenges were not only creating urgency, but was finding what the actual pain point of the client was. The advertising just basically says, let's look at different ways of reducing corporate tax. And I just took a lot of the materials that Fondaco has supplied over the year and a half, 2 years, and just readjusted it to make the meetings go better. I mean, I even 2 weekends ago, I spent both Saturday and Sunday just redesigning the fact find, creating a calculator for myself that I can share with clientele, redesigning the document, the Preserve Wealth Group document, spending a lot of time in doing that just to make the initial meeting more beneficial because usually the first question was, so what's your greatest frustration with regard to your particular tax situation? And they didn't know. They honestly
Mhm.
didn't know how much you tried to pry. and try to help them figure it out. They just don't know. They just know I pay too much in tax. I want it reduced. So my redesign is just basically gets them to see what their numbers are. Created a very basic calculator to show them what their problem is. I just started using it, so I think I've used it for two people. It's made a big difference because it actually highlights what their problem is. And I just, this is your number. If you die today, this is your problem. Here's your passive income problem. You know, do you care? Yes or no? And either you get them right away or you don't. So I've been
Right.
constantly evolving the process per se, trying to get it better. And I just got fed up again on how the first meetings were going and just totally redesigned it. I'm constantly redesigning things. So
Let's stick it there. Actually, like once again, just pause before you join us. Were you used to? I think yes, from what I remember, were you used to work business owner cases or not that much?
no, I not as much because it was sort of I was more going after, I was figuring, I was more going after increasing retirement income and using insurance to increase retirement income. So I had some specialized software from the States. I was using a lead generating system in Canada to help generate those type of leads, but it was still very labor intensive and just it just wasn't providing, you know, enough money that I was satisfied with. So I just decided because I want to work less or work smarter, not harder, I decided to go and back into the corporate world.
Sure. And I remember conversations from a while back, but um, you were going back to like basically I think like to insurance businesses and all that stuff. You were taking back more courses to learn more back about business owners. And I remember you were talking about like at first you felt like there was leads maybe that you haven't handled properly. Like I guess what have you learned through that process more towards the
The
technical part?
the technical part, I mean, again, you guys introduced a lot of stuff. I use Claude AI for a lot of stuff now. To generate everything, to help organize my thoughts, to create presentations. You introduced in the advisor site to use Gamma as an example. So I mean, I've learned a lot from what you guys have introduced, and I just really adapted it. I mean, I came into it with a business background beforehand anyway, so it wasn't as hard to pick up. But like anything, if you don't use the same thing all the time, you're going to forget things. So made the decision, let's specialize in the corporate market and, just really become an expert at it, per se. And I mean, I know there's, a number of people in this group that probably have a greater knowledge that I do, but I'm persevering, per se.
Yeah,
So it gets
you are.
frustrating, but perseveres. I mean, I know we've had conversations where this is what I'd like you to ask when you're qualifying people, and I understand if you add that qualification question in, it cuts the amount of leads you can generate, in half. But it just got frustrating, and how do I actually get them to open up or recognize what their problem is?
If you were to try to summarize it, I know we've talked a lot about, like, for example, we were talking about Josh Lyons. You're talking about now the latest change that you've done of trying to put a number in their face so that they can visualize what the actual problem is. What do you think are the biggest part that you've changed in your approach that helped you more than 2 years
Well,
ago?
right now, it's the purpose of my first meeting has to be get them to find the pain point and get them to live in the pain point. If you can't do that, you wasted your time because most of the people are tire kickers or in my leads that I've gotten. I want to just reduce tax. So you got to find out what the pain point is and how do you do that when they don't really understand tax to begin with themselves, is you have to put numbers in front of their face. So I mean, that's why I decided to create a calculator to just to basically talk about here are the taxes that you have to pay. So I've just started using it. I only did that 2 weeks ago. About 4 months ago, I took your preserved wealth group document that talks about differences in licensing and where the issues are. But you also created the solutions because of at the time your thought was, well, we'll market everything and everyone will recognize what the problems are and what the solutions are, and we as a group would just implement the plans. But I found that wasn't really useful. I just took the first half and just said, okay, here are the problems, which one is your particular pain point? And then I found, because they're more tire kickers, that I just created a calculator that I can go through with them and just plop in their numbers just to see what it looks like. I'm constantly adapting the process and how do I make the first appointment better.
So, Rick, I have a question for you. I am getting a first appointment. I work in business market, but we work in a different estate planning strategies in USA. So you're saying the first meeting we are asking them pain points by questioning their numbers. In first meeting, I don't think we have their numbers. We don't know anything about them except we have an appointment.
I can share. I'll share. I'll share the calculator what I do, but on how I do it, if you guys want to create it, that's fine. But I spent a lot of time on this. Actually, spent more time doing the fact find than I did the calculator. Let me see. So this is my calculator, branding on it, everything. Discussion purposes only. Okay. I refer to this as the corporate tax leak. Okay. And the numbers I'm getting from them is their profit, their retained earnings, their passive income, and the cash sitting in there. And all I'm doing is problem one. Okay. I'm just sharing these are taxes that you're currently paying that you don't really have to be paying. And where this is coming from is from the passive income penalty of going over 50,000 and the tax drag of 50% on the investment. Okay, so this is in using these particular numbers. I also have sliding scales, that I can put whatever the number is, what I want to go there. The second one, I just talk about getting money out of your corporation, the levels that you're taxed at the top rate. Why is this important? Because later on, when you want to get money out of your corporation in any way, shape, or form, you're basically losing half. The real fun numbers is talking about the tax bill at death. Okay, 2 layers of tax. One, and Canada, when you pass away, the CRA says there's a deemed disposition the day before, so you got your capital gain on that. Then you also have the problem of getting the money out of the corporation when you pass away through dividends. So in this example here, you had, oh sorry, I'll take it back to 1.4 again. Okay, 1.4 in retained earnings. But after you pay capital gains tax and you get your money out of the corporation through dividends, okay, 1 million of your 1.4 is going to the CRA. Your family gets 400,000. How do you like that? Okay, so I very clearly demonstrated that. I also have the ability of different ways you're being taxed at death. I have the ability to change my tax rates or rates of return. I assume a 4% rate of return on the passive income. So I've got all sorts of different things that I can talk to them about. But in that way, I can actually show them what the number is. Because if they're coming in going, I don't know, okay, here's your number. Okay, then how do you feel about that? And then just shut up.
Okay, thank you. I think you're more on Canadian side, but that's okay. Great. Thank you for sharing your calculators.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And yeah, and the thing is, because of the introduction to AI, I created all this using AI. And I'm not a computer genius. I just have the patience to sit there and create it. Then you actually have to know your stuff in the background because AI makes mistakes. And you constantly have to challenge what they're doing and have it explain. So you know that the numbers are correct. Some people here have the gift of the gab, so to speak. I'm more technical.
And I think that's the biggest part of seeing and learn about you is through those downs. I think that's where you define a person. And there's so many places where you were up, down, up, down, up, down. I know lately, I think you got like probably your most significant win, I think right now from the this
Yeah,
month.
I had a half decent sale a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, also you're hiding
Yeah.
some.
Well, no, I met with an individual on Wednesday, went through this, did a proposal 2 days later, and closed them on the proposal right away. So it was a
Let's
six-figure
go.
premium.
Congrats, man.
I just
And
didn't announce it because I knew there was a slight health issue there, so didn't want to jinx it.
so I know recently, basically, if I'm taking back what you said to me this morning in your words, it's like you just had your easiest sell in the past 35 years.
That was yeah. Well, it was done in 2 days, six figures. And
So
he was pushing me on the solution to get it done. He's given me three emails on his paramed going, I don't like the way the nurse did this and how he measured my blood pressure, and I'm worried about this. And I just pass it off to the underwriter, just so they know. So
so
he was
basically,
pushing me. That's why I was able to close. It was just for me, it was like it was luck of the draw. It was just the way he was set up. He had the cash available in a corporation that was just 100% passive income. He cared about leaving more money to his daughter, and it was just showing numbers like this. Well, you're let's just use the million for you're losing. Like a quarter of it is going to your daughter. Let's if you do it my way, you're getting three times the amount of money by the time you pass away versus doing absolutely nothing. So it's finding out if they care or not. But it's trying to get around that. I don't know why I want. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what my problem is because they don't. They're busy building their business. So it's very
100%.
it was extremely easy in this case because everything lined up. How often does it line up like that? Rare, but stick around long enough. Hopefully you get one of those once in a while.
I think like what you're saying here is once again, you're very humble. I think you're redoing the same the opposite of the success story that you didn't want to see when you got onboarded with this, which is saying that you're closing deal and this is easy and that's always going to happen like that. Obviously, I think through volume, it's a mix of preparation and the right person at the right moment, right? And I think like now it's rare that we see this, and I don't think it's a 100% luck, right? If you manage to close that into basically submit an app within 2 days, which is pretty crazy on those kind of figures, right? So that was really cool. I think a recurring thing that I'd like to touch base on, unless people have more question about this, but one thing I have top of mind is often when we're dealing with those leads, we won't lie, it's dragging energy, right? You're jumping on calls, you're meeting a lot of people, you have tire kickers left and right. I know, I think you were talking, I don't remember exactly the name, but we were talking about another guy that was a big potential lead, but you actually not put in a trash, but stop following up and abandon that opportunity. How are you managing your energy? How are you qualifying and deciding who is worth your attention, who you're working on, and when do you discard, I guess, an opportunity?
I mean, you're trying to get someone to tell you no. I mean, the guy discarded was problem $5 million, and basically said whether you talk with me or not, you're going to have to sell 2 or 3 year properties to pay the tax bill. And he basically said when I showed him, just give me your analysis, email me your analysis, and I refused to do it. Because you're not willing to have a conversation to go through the nuances of everything, why bother? You're just looking to evaluate it on a strictly cold numbers. I says, fine. It's all the best to you. You know, when you change your mind about wanting to sell 2 or 3 year properties, let me know. So I sent them a follow-up email, just basically saying here the pros of using corporate health life insurance, and best of luck in your future, and we'll just walk away because he was too
Mm.
worried about that he'd have to, rearrange $300,000 a year and readjust what he's doing. And he was counting on himself, regardless of the fact that, how do you do that when you're 72, 73 years old? Your health isn't the same, your mind isn't the same. So all the power to you.
I think you've tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you've refused to send analysis to some people sometimes when they didn't want to sit with you and take a
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah. Why bother? Because all they're going to do is take it and then ghost you anyway. So why give them the answer? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
It's
And I want to
yeah,
open up the floor
definitely.
also to you guys because I think like also just to get back like we're tracking KPIs and right now like I was really happy about this morning. I met with Rick, went through his KPIs. We realized that now in the past I think 10 last appointments 100% of the people that got booked with him got booked on second calls and his short rate was actually 100% also on the second call. And except for one guy that pulled him off saying that he got anyways an emergency in his business that needed to be
Yeah,
walked off and rescheduled. So I think that's where when we're talking about being process oriented, I think that's the most important part. It's not only about these like this close is this cherry on top, but we know that if we're hitting those numbers and maintaining those, there's no way we can not succeed and having every result that we set for ourselves. Right. So is there like if I open up the floor to you guys, is there any questions or any specific about like I think in the chat there was Ron that asked, do you have any specific sell product or idea that you seem to use more often?
no, it's going back to the pain point rather than focus on the solution that I use better. I mean, ideally, we're insurance salespeople. Ideally, what we're going to sell for is, for estate planning. Do they care about leaving something to the family? Or from an ego point of view, do you want to see the CRA destroy your empire? You know, it's their choice. I mean, I just did before this, I just did an IPP or a presentation for someone, or I'll use the split dollar CI as a way of getting money out. But I'm not focused on the solution. I'm now focused on how well I can apply Josh Lyon's approach, which is find the pain and let them live in the pain so they sell themselves. And that was really that 2-day thing. He sold himself.
I know Ron, was that answered? He was asking which company did you use?
I didn't even play with companies. I showed them a company that I usually use, just because I know the software well, which was Desjardins. I showed 4 options, 2 with the guaranteed 10 pay and 2 with a premium offset at 10 pay. And he goes, which one gives my daughter the most amount of money? So it was one of the premium offset numbers, which turned out to be whole life in ADO, but to get it to 10 years. But it was just, I let him pick. And I'm trying to do my, due diligence and cover my rear end by trying to explain everything. And Rick, stop. He just said stop. If this is the one that gives my daughter the most money, yeah, okay, then this is the one we do. I mean, I did one yesterday. I said there are guaranteed 10 products, 10 pay, 20 pay. I designed this to pay to age 100, but I use a premium offset of 10 years. And I said the reason I do that, 10 years is usually become self-sufficient. But the problem with guaranteed products is if you want to dump more money in, you can't. So I showed them the same whole life with a premium offset of 10 and a premium offset of 20 to give them the option to do more. So hopefully I'm closing that on Thursday.
Let's go.
So basically option 1 or option 2, is that what you're saying? 10 or 20?
Yeah. I just
Okay.
I don't know if other people got any last questions or anything top of mind, but Rick, I just want to highlight you because I think you've been so valuable to everybody here in the community. You've shared so much and you've been so genuine. And yeah, I truly appreciate you as a human being. It's been a while, like now for all those calls where I think the first call I up on a call with Rick, he started at the end of the call yelling at me, and afterwards we went back on the second call and we're like, all right, let's make it work. We're gonna find a solution and get to work together. And yeah, it's been roller coaster since, but it's great to see your success.
I definitely understand the frustration at the beginning. Absolutely. But that's why I asked for Pablo. I said, I don't want to hear about the guys who got lucky on the first call. And hi, on my second appointment, I got a 6-figure premium. I said, that's rare. I says, I want to know the real scoop of, what happens. And I was just worrying about just covering what I put into it. But now it's time to make money. But going through this, I'm going through and I'm learning the process. And I don't think you can actually get around that, because you have to learn what's working and what's not.
Yeah, if we had
Thanks,
that
Rick.
magic formula, we can try to make it faster, but I wish we did have that way to make that shorter for everyone to just inbrain and boom, start closing. All right, guys. So is there any last question, any last comments, anything top of mind? Rick, any last word?
Um, just persevere, I guess. I mean, I've had my moments where I've like, am I going to keep going type of thing, just probably like anybody else, but and just adapt. Or as I've always been told when I used to be at the management side, as long as you're coachable, you're fine. So pretend I know nothing, walk into this knowing nothing, don't have the ego. Listen to the training, adapt what you want. I changed what I found wasn't working, and I'm not going to repeat the same mistakes. So change it myself.
Let's go, guys. So have an amazing week. Thank you all for jumping on and being committed to help business owners. Let's make the most out of it. We'll speak soon. Have an amazing day.